Welcome to the Consulting Leaders Podcast, where we talk about the business of consulting. Whether you're looking to grow your practice or learn from the stories of leaders in consulting, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Guillaume Jouvencel, ex-PwC and co-founder of GHA Marketing. Join me as I interview the best consultants in their niche. Let's get on with the show. Lily, welcome to Consulting Leaders. Happy to have you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
It is my pleasure. All right, tell us the story, Lily. What took you from J&J to entrepreneurship, and what's the story here?
Oh my gosh, where to begin? So first of all, I'm super grateful for the opportunity to be here, and I'll give you a peek behind the curtain in my story. I was at J&J, which is an amazing corporation, one of the most admired companies in the world. And that really gave me the foundation for leadership and structure. And I'm playing in the big leagues at an early age with a big job that I had at the time. So ironically, I didn't even know I was an intrapreneur before becoming an entrepreneur. And that happened in my day job. So at J&J, I was heading global marketing services. I was responsible for our relationship with the biggest consultants, with all the holding companies, the big agencies. And of course, when you're in a marketing role, you're responsible for driving growth. And sure enough, as I was geeking out with the numbers and looking at the projections the next 3 to 5 years out in the pharma sector, a lot of people don't realize that we are looking at plans that are sometimes 5 or even 10 years out, because you have stuff in the pipeline that is on clinical trials that you have to start thinking about commercializing years ahead. And when I was looking at that pipeline and at the numbers in the market, I realized that the future consumer was being rapidly changing, especially with the shifting demographics of the United States. So that moment was what gave me an aha moment as an immigrant myself from Colombia, being, of Hispanic descent and of a group that was very proud to this day, growing very fast. But I wasn't ever thinking, hey, let me just look at numbers for the sake of my community. I said, let's look at numbers for the sake of growth, and realize that the majority of the future consumer and consumption growth was coming from diverse communities, particularly the Hispanic market. So I went from being that immigrant from Colombia that came to the US with nothing, with a student visa, pocket translator, not speaking English, to being in my corporate job and seeing the numbers at play that showed me that, who I was in many ways in my identity was putting a spotlight on what was to become the most prominent, fastest growing consumer segment, critical for Johnson & Johnson, but also critical for every other corporation in America that wanted to tap into that growth. So sparing you lots of details, I basically said, let me create the company I can't find to hire with the data analytics and the creativity of agencies, but like the rigor of consultants to maximize these shifting demographics in what I later codified as cultural intelligence. So J&J in many ways was my muse, my entrepreneurship incubator. I had the privilege of presenting to the CEO, the chairman of the board at the time, the executive committee, the board of directors on this financial modeling of what the future was going to look like, what it meant to our business. And that was the light bulb moment. I was like, every other corporation in America is going to need to know how to tap into growth with cultural intelligence. And that was the beginning of it. And here I am now.
I love the backstory. What's the problem that you help those corporations solve now, Lily? Like, what is it that you help people achieve exactly?
One word summarizes it: growth. And I know that's overused, and maybe every consultant says that, but here's the gist of it. At the highest level, when you look at the top of the problem for growth, we are helping companies close the gap between the market reality, those shifting demographics that I mentioned, the dynamics, the cultural signals, and their business decision making. So we find ourselves right there, helping them reimagine what many times are outdated assumptions about the market, outdated assumptions about who the consumer is, where growth is coming from, what is relevant, what drives trust. Because while you're still using old models to make those decisions, in many cases, they're one-size-fits-all decisions that look at the numbers in one dimension. We can show them how culture is moving faster than the speed of their, plans and assumptions. So that's the problem we solve. We're reconciling cultural signals and market dynamics with internal business needs and decision making. In the middle lies this cultural intelligence brain that comes with what we offer with our companies and our products, so that we can help them get to more people more quickly with more relevance as the market keeps changing really fast. Ultimately, that turns into growth with the fastest growing segments of the population driving most of the growth.
Interesting. Who do you solve this for? Like, do you have a specific niche, avatar, decision maker?
Yeah.
Like, who do you work with, Lily?
Well, I pinch myself every time because, when I took the leap of leaving a corporate job, you're leaving your credentials with a Fortune 100 company, right? But fast forward now, I don't work for one, I work for many. Since we founded the company, because my business partner and I, the two co-founders, we have served over 100 brands of the Fortune 500. And it's a big privilege, it's a big responsibility, but usually these large enterprises are our sweet spot. And it ranges in categories. Obviously, my business partner and I, coming from healthcare from Johnson & Johnson, we do have a big part of our portfolio that is in healthcare and wellness. But there's also CPGs, there's also financial services, retail. And at the end of the day, any business leader, often in the C-suite, who wants to know, how do I grow faster? How do I make better decisions in this fragmented, fast-changing world? How do I earn trust and remain relevant? Becomes our sweet spot client. And you may be thinking, gosh, it sounds like every other consultant wants to answer the same questions. But what's different about us is that we answer them with cultural intelligence, which is an inclusive approach to their business decision making. I want to double click on that a bit. I know I'm expanding on your question about who's my client, but typically my client is, and I say this respectfully, of all the C-suites and boards that have trusted us, but typically my client is someone that still hasn't realized that there is a global economy inside the US economy that is often missed or ignored in their business plans. So let me play that out to you in numbers. The Hispanic Latino population in the US, which I am proudly part of that community, right? We are 68 million, represent over $4 trillion in buying power, and the equivalent of what it would be like a GDP if you measure it like a country. That makes it bigger than the economy of the UK, France, Canada, very quickly, outgrowing some of the big giants like India, and growing 2.6 times faster than the rest of the American economy. So you can politicize things, you can like or not like diversity things. This is not about that. This is about the numbers. So our sweet spot client is somebody that hasn't realized the power of that 4 trillion inside their own country. And we come in to see where the pockets are, where opportunities are sitting that are not maximized, how they're performing versus competitors, and how to go to market with relevance. So it goes all the way from the cultural signals to the execution and the ROI, and that makes us quite unique. So long answer to your question, but hey, anyone that wants to grow, we'll show them a new way to do it with cultural intelligence.
So I love this. This is why I love the podcast format, by the way. This is because we can take time to develop an answer. So by all means, keep them coming. And I actually have a follow-up cheeky question for you here. If they haven't realized it yet, why do they buy from you?
So say that again, if they haven't realized it?
So your sweet spots are the leaders who haven't realized how big of an opportunity there is with that economy within the US economy. But if they haven't realized it, if they are not, we think about the marketing funnel, right? If they're not even problem aware, how come they come to you for a solution to a problem that I'm not even aware of? So how do you play that part of educating, making people aware of the problem, of the solution, and then getting them into the funnel?
Yes.
How does that happen?
Oh my goodness. You are actually, spaces like this one are the reason why we end up being found. So we generate demand through knowledge. And that happens in many different ways. And it's not just me as a voice for this message. It's my team. It's our research and analytics group. So we're always owning the conversation with thought leadership and credibility, whether it is on television shows in mainstream media or podcast platforms like this. Definitely publishing a lot and doing a lot of web events where we open it for everyone, that we want to democratize the knowledge of cultural intelligence and make it practical. So all of that combined, but the best thing is the referrals from the C-suite. I am so humbled when that continues to happen. When the CEO of one big corporation is telling the other one, or when they move from one company to another, because big corporate executives rotate, and they bring us with them whenever they go to their next company. So a lot of it really comes from reputation and referrals, ultimately. And I think for those that are watching, whether you are yourself a service provider or a consultant or an executive for that matter, I think with these things at our fingertips these days and the way technology and AI is moving so fast, there is no excuse for everyone to be amplifying their know-how and their intellectual brain trust. And that ultimately is better than any sales pitch or good website or digital campaign. Knowledge is value, and value doesn't sound like a pitch, but a contribution already that you want to then open up the door and learn more. So that's what we do.
Amen to that.
Exactly.
Nothing.
And by the way, sorry, I forgot something. Because technology is moving so fast, and we are such a, my entire team and in our company, we've unleashed the superpowers of anything and everything AI. But it makes our ability to personalize that blind spot, or I'd rather call it that mirror of growth and opportunity for companies with agility we could have never dreamed of a year ago. So if I'm talking to, and I'm just going to say random numbers, many of them are clients. So Merck or Heineken or Kellanova or Johnson & Johnson, we are showing up with thought leadership that is already telling them their own business story. So it's not a generic thing. And that personalization makes it really hard to argue when I'm in front of this is a true story. I was in front of a beverage company, we'll leave it as that could be many, in front of their board and their CEO. And the meeting started by, hey, I'm about to show you how you're leaving on the table $500 million in business. And that personalized hook makes people pay attention. So it's a lot of that.
It's curious that hey, you're leaving $5 billion on the table or $500 million on the table. It's curious that this is a good hook. Like, I wonder why it's so efficient.
Yeah, and I sometimes I get really bold and direct. I even say, I'm going to show you how you can get a bigger bonus at the end of the year. I was a corporate executive myself. I know how executive compensation works. So it's like, let me just show you, and I'm sure you would want to pay attention to this.
This is so good.
That's what we do. We end up unlocking new growth, and that drives shareholder value, and that's tied to executive comp. So there you go.
Okay, I want to double click on this, Lily, because this is so good. Because so we're going to talk about sales, and that's obviously the perfect segue into it. I think what I've seen with a lot of consultants, especially when they start going up markets and talking to Fortune 100, obviously, but even enterprise level companies, Fortune 500, is like the value is there of their offering for the company. But what we need not to forget is that the higher up we go in terms of market and niche, the more we are speaking to an individual that is part of a big machine and is no longer the owner of the company who's directly seeing the impact for their company. We also need to highlight, hey, this is what we're going to do for the business, and this is how you're going to benefit it. And this is how you actually get sponsors. So I love how you frame the, hey, let me show you how we're going to get you a bigger bonus this year.
Yeah.
Talk to me about sales. How do you make that happen?
There's a twist to that, what you just said, because maybe it's not the super executive audience, because, you know, we're not always privy to that, but maybe it's a more on the middle layer. Brand managers, directors, even VPs, depending on structures that lay somewhere in the middle. And the way we position our thought leadership as an it factor for them is as a flag that they can wave and take credit for as the ones that brought in an opportunity that gets spotlighted that others had been missing. So many times we are in the business of not just helping them market and reach better the outside world of consumers and markets, but also market to marketers or market themselves inside. So there is the internal campaigning that goes along with this type of work. And I am so excited when I see it. Literally just happened last month with one of our healthcare clients, because she is a young, super smart, marketer that I mean, I can see her in the C-suite at some point in her career. And she just got this big industry award. And a lot of it was tied to our work. But the spotlight is all about her. And we want her to shine, and we want her to take the visibility and the credit. Sometimes companies, agencies, consultants get too obsessed with being on the list or getting the prize and the award. To us, and my team hears this from me all the time, I could care less about the prizes and awards and things we win. I want our clients to get them. And the best prize is when, which is a real story, one of our clients' CEOs mentioned our work at an earnings call. That, to me, it's a better measure of success than getting a trophy somewhere for a creative industry award or something like that. So anyway, another angle to that. But sorry, you had another question. I took you on a tangent, but I want people listening to also think through that. How are you being a champion for elevating the people that are hiring you internally? Because they want that elevation as well.
Again, this is what we're here for, Lily. So yes. Don't apologize. Talk to me about sales. So I like what you said around what was the exact? We drive demand through knowledge. I like that. So how do you go from that knowledge, from that brand, from the word of mouth, to a conversation, a sales conversation, an SOW, a letter of engagement, and we rock and roll? Especially, everybody wants a piece of. So there are two industries that everybody wants a piece of: private equity and Fortune 100. You're on the second one. And I don't mean like first and second, it's just two very equal consulting firms want to go after them. Here we go, balloons.
We got balloons for
that. So how do you close this type of deals is my question.
Yes. Well, it's not just me. Actually, more often lately, my team is the one with that magic touch. So things happen not by inertia and by chance. There is a system. So we have a growth team. We have a chief growth officer that actually sits in our leadership team. We elevated her to that position as of last year. So sometimes people may leave that person, that biz dev person, out of leadership team. I think that is a mistake, because it is very critical. And the more she knows about what is coming next and how we're thinking and making decisions structurally as a leadership team, the better equipped she is to then have that follow up. So in a nutshell, the way you convert interest or a teaser of knowledge into a paid project, and I'm totally giving you a peek behind my curtain, has to do with not presenting a pitch or a capabilities deck. I think we're doing that less and less, but teasing them with a preliminary assessment of their business. Sometimes, and I have to be careful here because I don't want to expose the innocent, my clients, but they're consultants of any walk of life, especially those in Fortune 100, ambitions. Your best prospects are like, right now we're in earnings season. Who is struggling? In our case, right? Because we're all about growth. And most recently, we took a company that was struggling. Their share price was cut almost in half. And come on, with AI, LinkedIn, digital means, you can get to anyone, anywhere these days. But it's very different if I get this generic, email in my inbox on LinkedIn, which I get a ton, versus someone that is really, you know what, Joe, I would like to share with you some ideas our company has to recover your share value after what we learned in the last earnings call, because we feel very strongly there may be hundreds of millions of dollars on the table that you could maximize and bring new growth for the corporation. Would you be interested to talk? So that's the hook. Now, once you pique their interest with showing a teaser of the work, it's like the appetizer, and they are said, okay, what else do you have in the menu? Can I, tell me more? Then that handoff and that workflow of interest to close is managed by our growth team. And they have a science to stay on top of that. And that's where negotiation comes. Now, it's very unique for us that we don't depend on RFPs to get business. I would say it's like a 60-40. 60% of our engagements are demand that we generate through the knowledge and personalized outreach, and 40% is coming of net new business, maybe coming from RFPs or people looking for us, and that is a different recipe for sure. But you gotta have the creds, and in our case, the tech as well, to be able to show up to this company with the struggling share price with real numbers and a real assessment, which we did.
Okay, I'm gonna ask a follow-up question on this, Lily, which is for my own very personal interest. How do you build with high ticket professional services firm? How do you build a growth team, which is a way to call a sales team, but I like also the partnership building approach rather than just like sales and closing approach. So how do you find the talents, hire them, train them, retain them, to a point where the sales cycle doesn't rely only anymore on the authority and the brand of the founder, but also purely on the quality of the product, obviously. That's not here what are we even talking about, but then enabling the sales team to do the closing for you. I mean, that's what I'm in the middle of with my company right now.
Yeah,
it is a hassle. We are getting there. Yeah, curious to have your thoughts on it.
Absolutely. And there's no one better to sell your thing than you as the creator and kind of like the builder of it. See, we have our growth team is made up of two types of people. There is very systematic, process-driven folks. There's like a bench of the ones that are like the follow up and lead inbound, management ninjas. And again, now with AI, they have become superhuman. But really, the head of growth, or chief sales officer, whatever people may call it, which shouldn't be the founder, especially if you want to scale. More than a technical person that can sound like our strategy team or me or our president, it's just gonna sound so basic. She is a relationship person. So you need that human factor, because at the end of the day, you're dealing with people, and her ability to make that Jane prospect feel as if she is the only priority in her life at this present moment is something that is very special. It's something that I don't think AI will be able to replace or replicate. I mean, the emails, the grunt work, the scoping, scraping lists and things like that. Sure, that's done by the bench, but there is a hero relationship, like a chief relationship officer, and that's different from just being selling. Obviously, compensation drives behavior, so there is an incentive model that the growth, leader is able to benefit from, so that also helps too. But it's the combination of systems that create the leads, knowledge that is relevant and teases with real, genuine interest, because it's almost like you cannot afford not to pay attention as a receiving prospect, and a relationship person that puts a heart and a human touch to it all. I wish it was an easier answer, but it is, for us, it's a combination of all of that. Yeah.
I mean, there is a reason why there is so much value in it, right? It's because it's simple, not easy. It's simple principles, relationships,
Correct.
natural authority, trust. But it's very hard to implement, which is why it has a lot of value. So no, I like it a lot. I vibe with what you do, Lily, obviously, if people didn't notice during this interview. So I'm going to throw a little bit of a curveball question at you now.
Uh-oh.
What's your number one challenge? What's the one nut that you're trying to crack right now that once you crack, you're going to take the whole business to the next level? What would that be for you?
I love it. How to harness the superpowers of technology and AI, which has democratized and accelerated execution in a way that I don't think we could ever imagine. How to do that without losing the defensible nature of who we are, and staying true to the human expertise and depth that is needed regardless of AI. So it's the balance of that AI scale with the human depth. And what's that balance? Because if you are such a humanist that you're like, no, machines are here to kill humanity, you're probably going to self-expire. And if you're like, no, everything is going to be agentic and tech driven, and I can just eliminate 90% of my team, you're going to lose the high touch, emotional intelligence that keeps us human. So the balance of those two. That. And I'll tell you, and this happens to companies, especially like ours, who are independent and funded by the principals and founders and our structures we've been very disciplined in the way we've grown, like being our own machine and our own fuel. So a challenge is, gosh, technology is moving so fast. If I had more fuel in the tank, I could probably be this AI power platform with the human depth that it's limitless. So there is the obvious also scaling with financing that can come ahead of revenues, which I think for many consultants is a challenge, especially if your model is you do what you get paid for. And if you do, then where is the room for innovation and creating ahead of scope? So we're also balancing that one right now as well. It's exciting though. I think right now, that's why we're seeing the billion-dollar company with 2 people and AI somewhere in a basement. I think it applies to every industry. So all of you, whether it's marketers, consultants, finance people that may be thinking, oh my goodness, we're getting replaced it was like, you are, if you choose to see it that way, or you can see it as a way to become superhuman. Now, what's going to be your expression of that unique superhuman that you can be? And that's what we're doing with us as a cultural intelligence, like operating system that doesn't lose the human expertise, but is harnessing the power of the tech. It's a new frontier.
Lily Gil, ladies and gentlemen. Lily, if people want to find out more about you, see what you do, where should they go?
Well, I think I'm streaming live here if technology was my friend, right? Like
that's true.
On Instagram, it's Lily Gil USA, LILIGIL USA. Or you can just put on your good old Google search or even ChatGPT if you're using it as a search and put Lily Gil Cultural Intelligence. And I bet she's going to come up. And my company, Culture Plus Group, and everything else that we do will pop up in there. So just search for the name, append Cultural Intelligence, and you'll find all kinds of stuff.
We'll put all the links in the description. My apologies for butchering the name. It's Lily Gil, not Lily Gil. Lily, thank you so much.
In Espanol, in Spanish, it's Gil, so it's okay. It's me.
Bien, and that's as far as my Spanish knowledge goes. Lily, thank you so much for coming on Consulting Leaders. I can say one thing for sure is that you've gained at least one new connection on LinkedIn out of this interview. Me, I just added you.
Yes, I love it. I love it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for creating this space. I love it.
Here we go. We'll do our best. Thank you so much, Lily.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Consulting Leaders Podcast. We hope you learned valuable lessons on how to grow your practice and take your business to the next level. Make sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening to this show so you never miss an episode. To apply and be a guest on the show, click the link in the description. See you next time.